desk that was really just got in the way of all my notes and a bunch of things I have and mail and all kinds of stuff. So I was a little bit late here. So sorry to scramble on in. We got a 7-gamer, but it's actually a pretty fun little 7-gamer because there's definitely some different ways we can go. I'm going to pull up the DraftKings because we didn't do a morning show, which is going to be the case. Like when we have an early slate that's pretty big and then a main slate that's pretty big, we're going to do a live for the main slate and a live for the early slate. When there's one main slate, then we'll do the video and the live for that. So there will always be 2 videos a day for that stuff. I'm going to share my screen and talk a little bit about what I'm doing on this slate. Let's see. Let me grab my window here and share. Also, just like just for what it's worth, I'm posting my early golf looks in the premium channel. My early golf plays. I'm still sitting, and I've got some editing to do yet on my current lineups, but I'm in a place where I pretty much like it. Anyway, here's the baseball slate for the day. I've got it sorted by value right now. We can sort by ownership as we go game by game here. But let's talk through each of these situations. So, Tehran, I'm not going to buy it. I'm gonna choose to be on that side. And also, Toronto beat up the bullpen pretty bad last night as well. So I don't have any. I'm not going to fade Toronto here. I'm going to be all over Toronto. And I actually look. You can call me crazy, say what it is, insult me. Manoah will not be in my highest buy-in tournaments, but I am going to have some exposure to Manoah. I'm just it's the way that it is. I believe in the long-term outcome that he's not a 6,900 pitcher. I understand that he's been bad and he's been worse than that every game. I'm just going to count that at some point it comes back. Not a bad matchup against Milwaukee, who has some strikeouts in their lineup. And I'm willing to take some shots there. Not a huge amount, but I'm willing to take some shots. I have the Blue Jays #1 overall. I understand that Milwaukee has a good bullpen, but kind of beaten up last night. Although if you look, the bullpen actually, when they pitched 6 scoreless last night, so a little or 5 scoreless, just a little annoying there because I had the Toronto stacks that were in all my cashing lineups, and they just didn't do anything really after the 3rd inning. Hardly, I don't think. Maybe 1 run they scored after that. So yeah, I'm interested in everybody. I like that Chapman and Witt will be a little bit lower owned. I don't mind including Kiermaier in stacks. Never have, never will mind it. And they are my favorite stack today. I understand there's some chalk, but there's only 7 games. And can we get different in our other spots is the question. So then we get over to New York and Philadelphia. And I am confused at the total of this game because I actually think Philadelphia is a tremendously good stack. Now, it is New York. It's a worse hitter's park. It's only 68 degrees, not 85 like some of the other games we have. And the Mets, though, I mean, who would have thought Aaron Nolan basically a pick'em versus Carrasco, who hasn't looked like anything really. I'm not going to play Carrasco. It's a similar type of play to the Manoah play. To me, he looks more broken, and Philly is a tougher matchup. So I will skip Carrasco. I will have some Nola, and I am actually fairly high on Philadelphia tonight. They're hard to get in. They're expensive. But maybe you use them more as a mini stack, or you find a way to play Brandon Marsh and one of Sosa or Clemens down at the bottom of the order, because that's sort of the only way that you can kind of get them with 2 good pitchers. But again, maybe if you did a spend down, maybe this is the spot you could do it with. I do like Philadelphia. They are in the top 3 for me tonight. And this game is sort of all in all, like it's just like it's like number 3 on its own, but it's just really the game. I'm not actually on DraftKings interested in stacking as much as I am on FanDuel. I think it's completely fine to stack on both sides, just to get into some of the pricing for Boston. And you do have some value options with Refsnyder in the lineup today. But it's overall, like, I mean, you're paying a lot for guys outside of Yoshida and Devers who aren't going to be terrific fantasy producers in general. They are going to be the most popular stack on the slate, so I'm trying to get less exposure. I think stacking them on FanDuel without Devers is one interesting route to go. Maybe you play 2 other third basemen other than Devers. That's something you could consider in your builds as a way to get different with the stack. But certainly on paper, they look like a very good stack. From what I remember, it's a nice warm day in Boston with the winds blowing out to left. Hard to imagine there won't be some runs scored here. Uh, Against Paxton, I'm not getting to maybe as much as other people are. I do think it's hard to ignore the value of Kevin Newman and Matt McClain. So one of those guys, and also it fits a shortstop position that sort of you're in a tier. You know, you got these guys and Kike as the three that I like. So I'm good. I'm okay with it. I don't think I'm going full stack, and I actually think there's an argument in large field tournaments for Paxton, and I guess he's going to be pretty popular in small field as well. Great strikeout rate. And look, if you're not hitting the ball, it doesn't matter what the weather and the wind's like because it's not going to go anywhere. So pretty simple stuff. But yeah, that's anyway. My number one pitcher on the slate is Hunter Brown. I don't think there's anything shocking about that. Minnesota strikes out the most in baseball against right-handed pitching. Yes, there are some dangerous bats, blah, blah, blah. Not worried about it. Hunter Brown is my number one pitcher. And is there a risk? Sure. There always is a risk. We see it happen every day, but I'm in on it. I am not as into this Houston thing. Varland's been pretty good. Sure, Houston could be, you know, they're low owned on a small slate. They could use that as a reason to play them. Not all that excited about it myself. Yankees in Seattle. I wouldn't mind. So I've got some George Kirby. He's my number two pitcher right now. I don't love actually, I think Nola on DraftKings I may use a little more than Kirby just to get a little bit off the chalk with my Toronto stacks. And then Clark Schmidt is in play. I would rather take shots on the other cheaper guys and save more money. And I think there's an argument, not for a Seattle stack, but for any of these. I think everybody on Seattle is completely in play. Just put it that way. I think it's a spot where you could look for a cheap one-off. Not even a cheap one-off, just a one-off that you like. I think Kalenic is probably my favorite play if I had to pick one from Seattle. With Arizona and Colorado, you do have the roof open, so good hitting conditions again. I think that Arizona is completely viable. Because I'm playing Toronto basically all over the place, kind of having a hard time getting their stack in because of the chalk. I don't think I can. I mean, Lamet, it's going to be a bullpen game. It's bad bullpen, sure, but like I think it's getting a little bit too much owned for my liking. So I am going to side more with Toronto than Arizona and Boston. I'm going to side with Philadelphia for pieces and seeing if I can get a nice little 5-3 with Toronto or a 4-4. And even on FanDuel, like a 4-2, a 4-3 with Philly or a 4-2-2 with Philly, Boston, with Philly being the main stack, and then maybe a couple from Toronto. That stuff like that is stuff I'm playing around with. Sure, there's nothing wrong with Arizona tonight. I personally am probably going to go and be more on the fade side than on the play side. If you do play any of them, I would play Lourdes Gurriel because of his lowered ownership compared to the rest of them. I guess Rojas is pretty reasonable too. Both Gurriel and Rojas lowish owned. I wish they would play that Perdomo at the top of the lineup because actually that kid's going to be pretty good. All right, you guys pop in questions and thoughts, and we'll talk about the rest of the slate. As of right now, my builds, for those of you who saw them, the only difference that I made was I swabbed Gavin Biggio in for a combo stack that I had with the chalky teams, the Red Sox and Blue Jays, and I'm gonna have to change that. So just want to reiterate, I would like to try to play Toronto, and I would like to try to do it while trying to get exposure to Philadelphia if you can find a way to do it. The value savers are really just Kirk and Kiermaier and Biggio here. Oh, Varsho's cheap enough now too. He's going to be super popular after really struggling most of the year. Pretty interesting to see where Sabersim has him versus Goldie. Goldie, I don't think has pushed his afternoon projections yet. Let's see where Goldie's afternoon projections come in, and interesting to check out before lock because Goldie's pretty good about that stuff, and he'll have the industry aggregate. It'll be the most accurate projections in the industry. So there's that. Guys, why don't you guys let me know what you're doing, what you're thinking, any questions, any thoughts, please hit the like button. We appreciate that. But that's sort of my little rundown of it right now. Right now I'm Hunter Brown on FanDuel. I'm Hunter Brown and George Kirby. On DraftKings, Hunter Brown, Aaron Nola, Kirby, Manoah, Nola, Brown, and Kirby. Brown being my highest owned, Manoah being my lowest owned. That's the way I'm doing it tonight. I actually thought people would be a little bit more afraid to play Kirby after a rough start and after the Yankees lit up. Basically, a similar style of pitcher than their other guy. But I think I can buy back in on Kirby here. We don't have I don't love the other options. When you look at the fact that, like, if I was mass multi-entering on this slate, I don't think that I would bother with Clark Schmidt. Probably would have some Carrasco, but I would try to be below the field. I understand the Paxton thing, but even that, like, I'm more just on the 4 guys that I'm on. And on FanDuel, it's just going to be, it's Brown and Kirby, but there's no issue with Brown and Nola in that one either. The Mets certainly haven't been anything to write home about this year, even though their lineup would scare you if you didn't know better. Anyway, guys, we appreciate you very much. Smash the like button before you get out of here. Reminder: Philly, Toronto, Boston as my favorites. The ones that I'm going to get some lower exposure to, I think Philly will be a little bit lower owned, especially on DraftKings. And I think that I'm definitely okay with pieces of these other games. I actually think you could make an argument, because of the smaller slate and no ownership for the hitting from the Mets, to maybe take 1 or 2 bats against Nola is another way to get a little different. Cincinnati, you can take the lower owned guys. Jonathan India is not going to be popular at that price. Tyler Stevenson has been unproductive this year. You got 7-hole Nick Senzel, but at least he's got some power and speed. So there's definitely some ways you could play it to get a little bit off of the chalk. Nothing that I'm finding that's gargantuan. What I may end up doing is forcing in a little Seattle complimentary stack, just because I don't think Schmidt is unhittable, and I need to try to find some way to differentiate that's other than Philadelphia, because that's not quite differentiating enough for my liking. Although I would be playing Bryson Stott, who is going to be sub 10% at least. And as a reminder, also keep an eye out for Goldie's projections. We should have sheets back more consistently pretty soon. I will be covering NBA and MLB tomorrow night because it's the first game of the finals, and I'm probably going to max enter the big one. And hopefully we'll have some golf sweats going. It could be a fun day. So we got a big Thursday tomorrow. Let me just double check what time let's see what time the thing is. The slate is tomorrow, because I haven't actually gone through it. Usually I do it the whole week in advance, but I didn't do it because I was sick earlier this week. Yeah, we got the 10 a.m. games, but not that many. It's a pretty horrible day tomorrow for baseball, put it that way. But we will have NBA. We'll cover whatever there is of baseball, and we'll have some golf sweats going on. So it should be a fun time, guys. Reminder to like, subscribe. Appreciate you all. Have a great night. I'm Bobby Fye saying good luck.